Hello again, welcome to another Maya tutorial. If you have come onto this video immediately after watching my previous one on physical sun and sky, I applaud you. You did what I wanted you to. So today I'm going to show you gamma correction in all of its glory, and we're going to eliminate issues, the difference between this image and, well, this color and this color. This is the same color, but they're not showing up the same. So if I let this fully render out real quick, I'll save it off, and then we can get started. So if you notice on the shadowy side, it's close, but it's still not quite there. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to minimize that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my hypershader. I'm going to right click on my Lambert and I'm going to graph network. As you can see, all we have is our one shader. That's the only connection we have. What I'm going to do, okay, first off, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This is the idea of gamma correction. This is the correct gamma correction. This is what it tries to correct. So this is where we want to get our images and stuff, because Maya then pulls it up to here for us. If we have it here, which it is by default in Maya, and we let it do its stuff, it's going to pull it up here, and so it's going to be blown out, as opposed to being down here. So if you notice, black and white are convergent, so they aren't affected as much. But right here in the middle, it can get really far apart. So I'm going to show you how to get your textures from here to here so it doesn't ever go up here, if that makes any sense. Okay, so we have our lovely texture here. I'm going to come into the utilities, and I'm going to make a gamma correct node. As you can see, it has our familiar little graph that I just showed, and it has a couple of inputs over here in the attribute editor. It has a value, and it has 3 gamma fills for R, G, and B. So what I'm going to do is, this color should be in my color picker, and it's not. So I'm going to adjust it, and now it is. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to my gamma correct 1 node, click on the value, select that color, like so, and then I'm going to put in the magical gamma correct numbers. This is 0.454 or 55, however you want to do it. I think mathematically it's technically more correct to do 55. I do 54 for some reason. Don't ask me why. I've seen people do it both ways. Like that. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to pull our gamma correct node and connect it into our color. So I'm just going to middle click and drag it onto our color attribute of our shader, like so. And if you notice, it turned it black. I made it very, very dark indeed on here. That is actually slightly red, whether you can tell or not. So it made it very dark, and you're like, well, that's not going to show up right. Well, it will show up right, because I will show you. In Viewport 2.0, this is one of the reasons I use it. You open up the little option box. You can actually turn on gamma correction. Go to enable it. I showed in the earlier video, when you make physical sun and sky, it puts a gamma correction node on the camera you're using of gamma 2.2. So those need to match. And as you can see, this is now showing up. Turn those off. The color is showing up how we originally had it in our shader. So if I pull this up, this image is saved, I believe, yes. And I render this. As you can see, our cube now is the correct color. let it render out real quick. Okay. So there's quite a big difference between these two, and this is the exact same color as you showed. All I did was correct the gamma on it. So we have the maroon color that we actually wanted, and we have this color that was overly bright that we didn't want. So this is what gamma correction does. Here, I'll show you another example. Okay, so if we have our default Lambert, right? I'm gonna make another Lambert. They'll be identical. They appear identical. I'm going to gamma correct this Lambert. Utilities. Gamma correct. So I believe it's 50% gray. Nope, it's not. Interesting. Actually, let me delete this Lambert real quick. I didn't realize it wasn't 50% gray. And that threw off my demonstration. It says it is. Okay, so we change this to 0.5. Then come in here. We should be able to select that color. Like so, things like this, middle click and drag it onto there. And since we haven't changed the gamma yet, it's not going to change how it appears. So 0.454, 0.454, 0.454. And as you can see, as I affected the individual color channels individually, it also affected the color channels. So if I change this back to 1, it's going to make it green because the green is brighter than all the other channels. So you can also affect how images show in your textures or whatever if you run it through a gamma correction node like this. You can give it a green hue, you can give it a red hue, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this cube. Duplicate, Command or Control D. I'm going to drag it out like so. I'm going to drag the default Lambert on the one and our Lambert 6 on the other. They do appear different, but as you saw, I pulled the exact same value off the two. So this will show you exactly the shift there is. So pull up my render view, save this image, render this. Okay, so as you can see, put my hyper shader here. This is actually much closer. Let me graph that real quick. These two are very close, but this is the gamma corrected one. This is the non-gamma corrected one. So as you can see, it shows up correct if we run it through the gamma correction node. It does not show up correct otherwise, if we're using Maya Physical Sun and Sky. The advantages to running a linear workflow, like that Maya Physical Sun and Sky forces you to do, is that you get richer shadows, more vibrant colors. If you do it correctly, you get more realistic light, and yeah, so those are basically some advantages of doing it. I have totally moved to a linear workflow. If I pull any projects that I've done before, I go and I fix all the textures. Yes, it does take some time to go through and manually reconnect all of your colors. I know because I've done it. But in my opinion, it's worth it. As you can see, there's quite a large shift between these two. I think this image speaks for itself. I mean, if you want this color, the aggravating thing is when I pick a color, when I'm making my shader, I want it to be this color, not, well, I mean, I want it to be this color, not this color. Especially if you're building a PSD network, you're basing your texture off an image or something. You obviously want it to look like the image texture you picked. I mean, if it's gonna, if Dragon has green scales, it has a certain shade of green scales that you're mapping on, you obviously don't want it to be lime green instead of dark green. So it may not seem worth it, but trust me, it is. I can't implore you enough to do this to all of your, if you use my Physical Sun and Sky. If you don't want to mess with it, then use regular lighting and don't adjust the gamma on your camera, and then you don't have to worry about it. But I really think this is a step forward in your workflow, and this is one of the reasons I showed these features to you later, so you're familiar with mine already, so I didn't assault you, with opening up this hyper shader and making nodes and making connections and stuff. This should be fairly familiar to you because we've done PSD networks before. We've attached different like transparency to shaders and other things like that. So the good thing about this is it can give you photorealistic lighting, and this corrects your textures so they show up correctly. So I hope this was helpful. And in my next video, I'm going to be showing some other cool tricks with regular lighting. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you all in my next video.